Alrighty, we are live here on the Spalding Media Network, also on ARD, which is Auto Racing Digest, my website I get to cover racing for here. We have a very awesome show ahead for you here on this Wednesday afternoon. We're joined with the driver for Zabuk Simpson Racing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, Mr. Nikita Lastochkin, joining us here. Hopefully I said that good. Hopefully that's the first time I've ever had to pronounce your full name on a show, but it's good to see you, buddy. How's everything been?
Yeah, good to see you too, man. If this is the first time you're saying it, I'll give you an 8 out of 10. So
I
I think
appreciate that.
that's pretty good.
Thanks,
Um,
man. Appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's obviously you've had a pretty busy weekend at Mid Ohio racing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, which was the second 4-hour race of the season. So obviously we'll dive into a lot of that, dive in a little bit about your career as well, and just dive into some racing topics. Racing is kind of in a busy week right now with Le Mans and everything going on around the world in racing. I know IndyCar is about to sign a massive deal potentially with Fox, so we can talk a little bit about some open wheel news maybe coming up and your thoughts on it. But I guess let's just kind of get going, man. I mean, Mid Ohio this past weekend, kind of a returning track on the IMSA calendar and a 4-hour style that you guys aren't usually used to. So what was that kind of racing like for you guys at Mid Ohio?
Honestly, so it's it's a brand new style of racing for myself, and it's we're a brand new team, so it's a lot of news. Well, there's core members in the team that have tons of experience in all kinds of forms of motorsport, but just like with any brand new team, people are coming together. And for me as a driver, so this is the second 4-hour race that we have done, and it went great considering how the first one went. So it was a big improvement. Pit stops were on point. Nobody made a mistake from, none of the drivers or the team, the crew. Everything was top notch. So we hit our marks. Everything was good. And it was just, perhaps not quite had the pace as some other cars out there, but I think it was a good weekend. And overall, we're just finding more and more pace in the car every week.
What has it been? Oh, sorry. What has it been like? What has it been like for you learning endurance racing? Because in previous seasons for you, you've been racing an open wheel, right? And what has that been like? Just kind of getting into now a sports car racing series. This is kind of a new venture for you, and also endurance racing is kind of something that's new. What has it been like, kind of working through the motions here early on in the season?
Yeah, it's been quite a fun challenge. It's a brand new style racing, but it's funny because there's so many drivers in the Michelin Pilot paddock and in just driving GT4 category in general that I have raced in the past, or I've been teammates with them, or I know them. So honestly, it feels like a very fun environment. And depending on who are the drivers around you, or who are kind of like the people that you encounter during the weekend, it's almost like you're hanging out with your friends, or you hang out with some buddies that you haven't seen in a long time. And as far as racing itself, the 4-hour format has been very interesting because there's a lot of strategy. Both of the races on the calendar they've been won by people doing fuel saving, both in Daytona and in Mid Ohio, and also just the fact that there's so many different makes and manufacturers of cars, and there's BOP, and it all like different weekends. You're not quite sure exactly where you're going to stack up, but we just kind of go off using the fastest same make, which is a Porsche Cayman Club Sport GT4 RS, and we just use whoever's the fastest of the Porsches. That's like the benchmark. And we have been, honestly, from where we started in Daytona through like Laguna right now, we're closing that gap, and there have been times when we've been the second fastest Porsche. in both like Sebring and definitely Laguna would have been the second fastest. But and Mid Ohio is just an interesting track, but overall it's also great. Just learning pit stops, driver changes, all that stuff. But yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, it really felt like that race at Mid Ohio was such a pit strategy race, especially with like nobody early on in the race wanted to pounce to try to make those moves. It just felt like everybody was kind of picking their time and kind of figuring out how the field was going to shape out. And I know there was a recent repave at the circuit. So can you just touch a little bit about that strategy and how maybe that got worked into that race,
Yeah,
especially with it being a new surface as well?
yeah, definitely. So definitely, especially the 4 hour race. It's funny because like you're kind of like a lot of times it all depends on lineups, but
Yeah.
oftentimes you have gentlemen drivers start those races and kind of like do their stint and their job. Well, they're just the main goal is just to keep the car as safe as possible and to pass it on to their pro driver, and then he can take it from there. But honestly, there's so many different lineups in the pilot challenge class. There's a lot of there's some teams that just outright have two pros in the car, and some have gentleman drivers. But in our case, we had pretty good lineup with guys who have. So my teammate for this year is Sebastian Carrazza. He has a lot of experience in GT racing. I think he definitely won a lot. He won like I think he won the Lamborghini World Finals in this
Yep.
class, and he won like definitely won some Carrera. I'm not outright Carrera. I'm so confused because there's the one thing with like sports car racing is there's so many classes, right? Like
Dude, I know.
Lamborghini Super Trofeo, there's like 30 cars, but there's also like 4 classes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like it's a bit difficult to judge. But anyway, Sebastian is a great guy and he's a good driver, and he has shown that he can win given the right equipment, and he's done that. So we don't have like a gentleman driver in our lineup, but more so we're just trying to get the car dialed in, and we've been making a lot of improvements on that. And as far as the repaved circuit, that was interesting because it's kind of like Laguna, where there's not quite as much. Well, Mid Ohio even more so. There's not quite as much tire wear because of that, and some teams were able to, and that's why I think it worked out for the guys who won the race, is that they're able to just save fuel. And I think they might have not taken tires or something like that, like the last stop. Basically do everything they can to save time in the pits, and just kind of like it's great that it worked out for them. But the Mid Ohio, it's just less tire wear, but honestly it doesn't feel like brand new. Laguna, you can feel it more, like as far as the pavement and the just the characteristics of the track, but it's just less abrasive. But the track still the same, still very technical. Not a lot of places to pass, so unless it's something, it gets more exciting towards the end of the 4 hour race, because there's so many people around on different strategies, different tires, different fuel loads, all this stuff. So even though there might be passes on the track happening, it might be like a car that's on very old tires being passed by somebody who just came out of the pits and they're on brand new tires. So it's not like true passes where it's like people are actually fighting, kind of apples to apples for position. But yeah, I don't know. It was a good good weekend.
Overall, like, I think, what have you learned the most through these first handful of races in terms of sports car racing? Like, what has been the kind of biggest learning challenge, or maybe the learning process they've been going through early on in the season? I mean, each race has been different. Each track has been different. I know like a place like Daytona is kind of unique. Sebring obviously poses some challenges with the way the surface is. So for you, like, what has kind of been that big I think, learning curve, learning challenge here so far early on in your sports car racing season?
So honestly, I think it's just like, or maybe this is actually just the Michelin Pilot Challenge, but like honestly, so myself personally, I have not done any like testing or practice in GT cars. I literally just
Mhm.
showed up for the Daytona and we were straight into like the weekend, and I haven't tested uh, between the races or anything like that. So it's more like we show up mid Ohio, and you have to think about, so there's 2 practice sessions that are 1 hour long, but we're sharing the car between 3 drivers. So I get 20 minutes in one session, 20 minutes in the second session. I don't qualify, and I just hop in the car at the end of the race. So it's like getting the most out of those 20 minutes, getting the most out of whatever, like 8 laps that you can do, 8 or 10 laps or whatever, and just maximizing. And there's so much to, like, we're changing things on the car, we're trying to different setups, and just making sure that, okay, how can I be more consistent, and what does this car need to go quicker, um, and just relaying that to the team. And it's honestly like, I feel like all the open wheel stuff that I have done have really prepared me well for that, in a sense that, your outlaps are very important. You have to be pushing like from the time you leave the pits, and you have to be able to give a very concise feedback to the engineer to improve the car. So I think it's just like maximizing the time when you're in a car. And also, what's very interesting is when you get in a car at the last part, like the finishing the race, the car has been running, and it's kind of like, it's not, doesn't quite feel the same
Mhm.
as you start the race, like, because obviously it's how would I explain, like, yeah, you get a new set of tires, but the car's been running, and maybe there was contact, or the brake pads have already been used, and it's kind of like, it's just an overall like interesting feeling. But just little things like that. Pit stops. One of the pit stops, I think it was in Laguna, I definitely did not hit my mark and just blew through the lollipop. So lesson learned. And then in Mid Ohio, I'm glad I was able to hit my marks and execute really well. But it's very fun. There's more things going on. And I will say that compared to open wheel weekend, it feels way more relaxed. It feels way more, because there's so many variables. You're sharing the car with other people. In my case, you're not qualifying, and it's like some of the stress of regular weekend when everything is on you is taken away, and it's almost like just more relaxed environment in some ways.
I agree. Yeah, completely. Like, I feel like sports car racing is such a fantastic platform for drivers, especially guys who maybe are trying to move up or trying to, find their way back into some, motorsports and such. I mean, like, it's such a great platform because, as you mentioned, like, the spotlight's not always completely on you, but also it's like you're getting to put in your work, I think, as well. You can focus more on your work rather than like a lot of the media coverage that goes into racing sometimes. Like, I think that's such a huge.
Uh, Honestly, like, I don't mind that at all. And actually, like, one thing I will say, as far as the product, like the
Mhm.
actual, like, if you look at, because we, like, Mid Ohio was a standalone weekend, but
Yep,
usually we race IMSA, but we race on
that's true.
Saturday. And honestly, it feels like, with the amount of people turn out and the amount of people in like fan walk and things like that, it kind of almost feels like you're the main show. Which, like, even though I did Indy Lights and it's an amazing series, the cars are amazing, drivers are top notch, and but it's still kind of like, unless you're like a die-hard IndyCar fan and you really like into your U.S. open wheel scene,
Mhm.
not a lot of people know about it. But sports cars, when you tell somebody, "Oh, I race a Porsche," they're like, "What?
Yeah,
You're racing a Porsche? Oh my
exactly.
god!" Like, and same thing goes, like, looking for sponsorship and potential partners. It's like, I remember a few times when I was, out in from lights, and I was trying to get sponsorship, and I was, I thought like the lights, it's like Formula 2 in the US, and it's like IndyCar is like, imagine Formula 1. IndyCar is like Formula 1 in the US, and Indy Lights is people just look, it goes right over their head. They
Yeah.
Unless they're into racing and they really know, the racing in the US, like if you say I race Indy Lights, 90% of people or potential sponsors are gonna be like, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, huh? Okay, open wheel is like the wheels are open. What? But sports car have that appeal to the masses where they can relate to the car.
No, I completely agree. And I mean, like, especially with Porsche, I mean, that is such a huge alliance for you guys to have, with you guys being a new team, and for how successful Porsche has been, especially over the past handful of years. I mean, especially at the top series in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship with the GTP car, and then even going down to their GT3 program. I mean, it's definitely got to be a huge benefit to have such a big supporting manufacturer such as like Porsche to work with you guys, especially being a new team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that I actually been a part. I started working for Porsche. Well, not like directly like a Porsche employee, but I've been working as an instructor for the Porsche Experience Center since I was doing Indy Pro 2000. So since
Really?
like I've been working for like 6 years, since 2018, I think, when I got on. 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, like 5, 6 years. And I've been driving every single make and model that Porsche makes for years as an instructor. And actually, the Porsche Motorsports North America, like all the people who support, like, the like support the IMSA programs, and they work on the parts, gearboxes. They're in the same building, so it feels almost like I have like a pretty big relation with the brand. I will say the Cayman is, it seems like it's kind of like it can be very fast, but it's a lot trickier car to figure out in the GT4 paddock versus some of the front engine cars. But it's fun to drive. It's a very, very good car.
Yeah, it's a very cool car. Have you been reached out at all to do maybe Porsche Carrera Cup? Have you ever thought about maybe jumping in, especially for how long you've been with Porsche?
I would love to do Carrera Cup. I would love to do more GT racing in general, but it is more like it's if there's an opportunity and
Yeah.
somebody would like to have me as a teammate or something like that, but not quite in the stage of my career where I go out and it seems like Carrera Cup is kind of like something that you do before you do something like IMSA, like GT Pilot Challenge. It's more like a stepping stone into that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially to see like how impressive some of these single make series have been. What are your thoughts of like single make series such as like the as I mentioned, the Porsche Carrera Cup, and then even like some of these other series like Mazda MX-5 Cup? You've gotten a chance to like be at the track for these weekends, and then Mustang Challenge just debuted this weekend, and Jackson Lee, your teammate, was in it too. So, like, what was that kind of just like seeing some of these like single make series and the racing that they provide?
I think it's awesome. It's a great like platform, and it's kind of like from coming from open wheel, I'm just so used to the ladder, and I know all the different. I mean, I know every. I don't know right now, but a couple of years ago, I would know
Yeah.
like every single series out there and where it leads and it's worth it or not. But I think just overall, I'm honestly like super impressed with IMSA, super impressed with the paddock, the quality of the series, the quality of the product. And whereas before I might have looked at sports car racing as something like coming from like Indy cars, like that's where you're trying to go, and sports cars kind of like I don't know. Honestly, that just being there and seeing it for myself, and it like the product and racing and everything. I don't know how, as far as like many different series, it seems like to me the Carrera Cup is the top series when it comes to single make, and then maybe Super Trofeo comes like a probably close second. And MX5 seems like MX5 seems great for what it is, but I don't really know or seen that many people spring out from there. And then the cars are just like very different
Yeah.
to any GT3 kind of machinery, big race cars. But I don't know. I'm super new to this like sports car world, so I might be wrong, and maybe like it might be different.
Yeah, what has it been like learning about just this like sports car racing like in general? I mean, just like learning about the different series, like it even as like somebody who covers the sport, when you start getting into like the European series and like the different racing there, and then you got SRO, like it could get really complicated sometimes as a media person to try to keep up with everything going on in racing. And almost you almost need like extra people to help out with the coverage. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
what are your like? What has it just been like learning? Like the overall like aura and like just everything that goes into sports car racing as a whole.
So for me, it was more about like figuring out, looking at it as more of a career path and something that
Mhm.
okay, like what's the best way to kind of put my foot in the door and try to make the switch to sports car racing. And Pilot Challenge seems like the best place in a sense. Like the GT4 might not be super complicated machinery compared to like GTD cars, but um, the level is incredibly high. The quality of drivers is very 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 good. So it's more, and it just gives you more chance to spring out. You can, if you can settle in pilot, I think you can spring out to potentially doing SRO or maybe coaching in like sprint challenge. Porsche has their own series, sprint challenge with like GT4 and GT3 series. And it's just very customer friendly. Like the cars are
Mhm.
not that um, fast in a sense, like they're not intimidating to drive. So if you have a gentleman driver who wants to come and do the race and he always wanted to be give it a go, they're not going to be outright like it's not like putting them in a GTD car, which might be a lot for somebody.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Just when we met at Daytona back a few months ago, I think the one thing that I was so impressed with was just how comfortable you are heading into that weekend, especially with that kind of being your first weekend with the team and first weekend with the group. I mean, overall, just like kind of what were you feeling that weekend as you got with the team, started racing with them, doing a lot of I mean, Daytona is kind of its own unique thing with all the build up and all the lead up heading into your guys' race that Friday. So it just kind of what was like kind of your overall just like mood, your feeling heading into that week and how you approach the weekend, mentally?
Honestly, so obviously, like once we got everything together and like Daytona, I knew I was gonna do it. Was super excited, and you always want to, you're hoping you're like gonna be up front and running for the win right out of the box and be competitive. And I've spent so much time on iRacing. I've been doing like the iRacing for enduro
Yep.
solo runs and all that. Did a little bit of Twitch streaming, and then when we showed up and it's like, oh, like, okay, we're not like at the front. It's just it was like it basically after like the couple of days, it was like, okay, it's gonna be this kind of like building momentum, figuring out the car, and it's gonna take a lot more work to be up front. And after that, it was just easy, just settle. I was honestly super happy to be there. That's my thing. I've been around, even though I haven't competed since 21. I think it was 21 June was my last race in lights at Mid Ohio actually, um, and I've been around like coaching and driving race cars and stuff like that, but I haven't competed. So just being there and just soaking it in that this is I'm back in on a race weekend, back in professional racing. And also it's just something that being stepping away from racing where it's not like you step away but you just don't have an opportunity, and
Hmm.
then coming back you just realize how privileged you are to be a part of this, how it's honestly like a what do you call it? Like a not like a fairy tale, but like
Yeah.
it's like this magic world when whether you're a driver or an engineer, mechanic, if you're a part of racing and you're at the track, just being more appreciative of being there and just you can't have a bad day if you're driving on the track, honestly.
I remember like the last 2 years getting to know you a little bit. Obviously, we had just met literally in January at Daytona, and like over the past 2 years, like seeing how much you were still looking for an opportunity and still trying to find that spot. It was so cool to see how excited you were, because especially when I got a chance to talk to you, it was like you really were truly excited, and you seemed like you were ready for the opportunity. I mean, how did this opportunity exactly come about with Sabuk Racing and Simpson Racing, and what was kind of the overall just talk leading up to getting the
Yeah.
chance?
So yeah, absolutely. So I've been I had a quite a few friends or people that I used to race that are since we raced together, they made quite a name for themselves in the sports car world. Like for example, I used to race and compete with Mackay Stevens in Skip Barber Racing way back, and I've seen he's like a top dog in SRO, and now he's doing an awesome job with his team in Pilot. And then the other one would be JCD, John Capaster Dubets, and Zach Anderson. They won the silver championship in BMW in SRO. And it's just been like, and then Eric Felgaris. We used to race USF 2000 way back when I was driving for Pelfrey, and then he's won a bunch of championships, and he's the go-to driver now. Also, all those guys are incredible drivers, but I just was trying to find a way to get in on the fun, get in on the action, and trying to make the switch. And how it came around is I actually talked to the team manager of Indy Lights team, Mike Marini from HMD Motorsports. And I was basically talking to everybody, talking to drivers, trying to see if there's an opportunity anywhere for me to be a part of. And he put me in touch with Steven Simpson, who just started a team with Matthias. And I know I've seen Steven in the paddock, and I know of him. Never personally really talked to him, but yeah, he just put us together. We kind of like talked about like what their intentions are and what my goal is, and um, it all just came together and was like I guess right place, right time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When you were racing in USF 2000 back in 2016 with it was Cape Motorsports, which with Wayne Taylor Racing,
Mm-hmm.
was there ever kind of, I mean, Wayne Taylor Racing, I know they were in IMSA at that point. Was there ever maybe an offer at all during that point when you were racing with Wayne Taylor? Or was that never on the table at all?
No, but it was so it's two brothers, right? It's Ricky
Mm-hmm. And Jordan.
and Jordan, right? And
Yeah.
I don't remember. One of them was coaching us, or maybe it was both of them. I'm sorry, it's been so long ago,
It's all
and
good, man.
but I don't know them too well. But
Yeah.
they would coach us a few times, and they just kind of like even then they I don't think they have done open wheel ever, but they just kind of like I remember we were driving to the airport together, and they were kind of like educating me and just on the sports car world and how there's
Mhm.
so much more opportunities out there versus open wheel. And you know what, man, I just I went all as far as I could in the open wheel world from like my personal opportunities and resources and stuff. So I know I've have not like left a stone unturned in terms of trying to make it. But if I win the lottery, I would try to go for another proper run when Indy Lights. Like I don't care at what age that happens. It's just something that personal like life goal, I guess, of mine. But unless that happens, or I find a really good partner, I'm gonna try to make it in sports cars.
Dude, if you win a lottery with sometimes with how big these jackpots are, bro, you might be able to just own your own race team at that
Oh,
point.
100%, man. If I win the lottery, I would just start my own team, start a Indy Next, Indy Lights team, and have fun with it. But 100%, absolutely.
Dude, sign me up, man. I'm gonna be the biggest supporter for your Indy Lights team.
Awesome, man.
I'll literally I'll put my name in the hat and I'll be like your PR
Nice,
photographer, team photographer. So,
for
but
sure.
nah, that's awesome, man. I mean, taking this step back from open wheel racing, I know you hadn't competed as you mentioned in 3 years, but like going now to sports car racing, do you feel like this is like a reset for you in terms of your career, kind of stepping back from open wheel and moving into this new venture? I mean, do you feel that way, or is it kind of a different feeling stepping away from it, open wheel? I mean, what are kind of your thoughts on that?
It's I don't know. It's just like honestly, it's like I feel like just kind of like happy to be able to give this a go. And even with this, it's like I don't know how far this is gonna go, and uh, I'm just trying to pursue this opportunity. And mm, I don't know. It's kind of similar thing. It's still racing, still. It's you know what? It's more like in open wheel racing, you're kind of like it's more about the driver. You support the driver in IndyCar, right? You're not support the cars are like single make series, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some people like to support a team for one reason or another, but usually it's still more focused on the driver. With sports cars, it seemed like if you take a step back and really look at it, it's a little bit more like you're more in the like you're not as important as the
Yeah.
car or the team. Like people usually, when they support watch IMSA racing, they usually support like, oh, I like Porsche or like Lexus. They're not really supporting that one guy out of four driving the car, right? I mean,
Mhm.
some do, but generally it's more like team car kind of deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I want to look back at that Indy Light season that you had recently in 2021. I mean, just talk about that year and get in the race with like Benjamin Peterson as your teammate and Linus Lundqvist and David Malukas. I mean, it was pretty impressive the group that you had, and then obviously HMD Motorsports continues to have some great drivers coming out of their program, and obviously they're one of the top teams in Indy Next. And they just added Jagger Jones, which was really cool, especially for the weekend that he had. And I know it was a tough week for him and his family with the passing of Parnelli Jones, but like it was really cool to see Jagger get that opportunity because especially for how impressive he has been in BP Sports Car Challenge. But just talk about that 21 season as a whole for you and getting the
Yeah,
race with some of those guys.
honestly, it was just like it kind of like happened because I was initially supposed to do Indy Lights with exclusive, and the team has the season didn't happen because of COVID, and then
Mm-hmm.
the team sold the cars, and I was looking for a seat, and I was super happy to find a seat. Super grateful to Henry and HMD, the whole Malukas family, and Mike Marini. It was just like honestly, it was like a perfect um, storm in the sense of like how to kill a career in the sense that did not quite work out for the setup of the car that the team was running, and on the personal side, sponsorship side, everything went against me that year, and it was a rough ride for sure. And yeah, so I would say it kind of left me with feeling that I did not quite close that chapter for myself. Like I said, if I had an opportunity, if I find sponsorship, win a lottery, find the money to do another year in lights, I would jump on that 100%. Um, but um, until then, yeah, it just that was a very difficult year for sure.
Yeah. What has it been when you were racing in open wheel, especially those last handful of years, getting to race against some guys now who people know like in IndyCar and getting to compete against some of the top stars in IndyCar? I mean, What was that like getting to compete against some of those guys? I mean, like Kyle Kirkwood and Stingray Robb. I know that was in 2019 in USF Pro 2000. I mean, just talk a little bit about competing against guys who have found a lot of success already here in IndyCar and getting to work with some of them.
Yeah, it was good times. I mean, it's kind of like the level is really high in US open wheel like Indy Lights, and there's really good drivers. Even though there might not have been the year I've done it, the car count was not as big. But I think with as far as like how deep the field was, and having guys like Kirkwood, Malukas, Lundqvist, and
Mm-hmm.
a few others. I mean, they're really good drivers, and it's awesome to see that they made it. Good for them.
Do you
But
feel? Oops, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Do you feel like the transition is tougher going from Indy Lights to IndyCar than maybe it is in like an IMSA or maybe sports car series? Do you think that
Oh,
transition
I
is tough?
mean, I don't know because I haven't done that transition, unfortunately. But I think look. I think it's like anything. Like there's times when you see um, the team performance is important. It's important to know what team, not to know, but it like you some teams are better than others in terms of like figuring out the car and all that. But very competitive. But at the same time, you see guys like Linus and Stingray Robb making it, and you're kind of like, well, they're out there making it, and that means the the field is very competitive in lights as well, that they're able to compete against the guys who have been doing it for 10, 15 years and all that.
Absolutely. Getting to compete in open wheel racing and getting a chance to race at IMS, and then obviously this year going to Daytona, you got to race on some pretty cool tracks. Like, what has kind of been like one of your favorite circuits, and then like getting to be at those type of circuits that have so much history. I can imagine as a driver, it's definitely got to be a cool thing to experience those type of events and those circuits.
Yeah. I mean, Indy is a very special place. Like everybody loves that place. So much history. Unfortunately, Indy Lights, or Indy Next, I should say, stopped doing the Freedom 100, which I feel like, man, if there's one race that I'm kind of a bit bummed that I did not get to do in Lights, it would have been the Freedom, because I'm actually my season fell through before we got to the oval part in Gateway, but um, I would absolutely love to have a go at the Freedom, and I also think it prepares drivers really well for the big show as well. So I'm not really sure what the reasoning behind it. I mean, there's some takes on why it's not on the calendar anymore. But I think personally, I think it would be great, especially with the field count, like the 20. I think it's up to 20 cars right now. It would be such an awesome race now. 20 Indy Next cars during
Yeah,
the Freedom.
freaking awesome. Be
Yeah.
so good. Be so good. When you got the first chance to ride on those high banks at Daytona, what was that first reaction? I
Oh
feel like
man.
iRacing, dude. I feel like iRacing can't do that justice.
For sure. No. Like 100% Daytona is so much steeper in person. And it was also kind of like, man, I have not been in a car since June 2021, and I just hop in a car, and it's just like a live practice session at Daytona. I'm like, whoa, okay, we're
Yeah,
really back in this.
yeah.
Um,
That when you guys did you guys do a track? I'm assuming you guys did a track walk. When you guys did the track walk, did you? I'm assuming did you guys go over to the high banks and just like see how?
yeah,
Dude,
for
it is
sure.
so
Yeah,
crazy.
and then also like and the other thing is like, so the cars might not be so um fast as far as like mid corner grip, like slow corners versus the cars I've driven in the past, but it's actually because the GT4, like the Cayman, they really barely have any downforce. Going through the bus stop at Daytona, it feels so fast because you don't have the grip, you don't have the downforce pushing the car down. So in a way, it's not like it's harder. It kind of feels more like sketchy in the way that the car moves around more. So
Yeah.
honestly, it's fun. Like the cars are, especially with fast tracks like Sebring or Daytona, like turn one at Sebring. That's a fun corner in the GT4 car for sure.
Dude, Sebring is such a fun track. It is so much fun. And then with the tire strategy too, like that is like such a difficult track, but it's also a fun track dealing with the elements that the track has to offer because you know how much history has happened on that circuit. I mean, what was kind of like that? What was that process like learning Sebring? I know you probably have raced it before, but what has it been like?
Honestly, yeah, Sebring, with the amount of testing over the winter when you're coming up through the open wheel ladder, the short course, you do that track, you can drive that course like your eyes closed, like you've done so many laps. It's more like the bigger track, right? But that's just like a few more corners, really, honestly. um I don't know. Sebring's been always such a. You know what? I think Sebring would be an amazing racetrack for IndyCar.
Ooh,
I think if IndyCar would have done a race at Sebring, like the full track, I don't know. I think it would be an amazing event.
dude, they might have to give you some royalties on that if they start
No, and
doing that.
people have been talking about it so many times. But also, I feel like you know, the my one of my absolute favorite tracks that I've ever been to. And also, I think it's one of the most amazing weekends in the sense that IndyCar and IMSA are doing it together. Was Detroit Belle Isle in Indy Lights? I mean, talking about an absolute insane car and track combo. I would like Detroit Belle Isle in Lights. Probably top three easy of my track car combo ever.
It is so sad to see that track not on the schedule anymore. And I know the street course, it's different, but it does not provide that same racing that Belle Isle provided. Like Belle Isle was so amazing, and the racing that it offered was spectacular.
Yeah.
Like they need to bring it back on the schedule.
They might. I mean, some like I don't. I'm not sure how successful the current track has been. It seems like there's mixed reviews on it, but I also understand like people are trying to bring the race more to the city and
Mm-hmm.
get more people out there.
No, I agree. Yeah, I get what they're trying to achieve there for sure. Um, you know, just talking a little bit. You actually mentioned about Sebring. I mean, it's a possibility. Like IndyCar could go there. I mean, they do their testing there, so it's
Yeah.
not like it's out of the question that IndyCar racing at Sebring's even out of the realm of possibility. And I think it would be a amazing circuit, and it would be great with the St. Pete Grand Prix post that to keep it in Florida. I mean,
Yeah, it's like also like what's going on with like the gap. I mean, I don't
yeah,
know. People are telling me that's because of like football or other sports, TV time, all that. But the gap between St. Pete and like, it seems like for the IndyCar series to keep the momentum, there's some things they can definitely do a little bit different, just not have like and you know big gaps. They tried to do that with thermal, which was I think it was great effort. You know, a little different, but I mean, I don't know. They're trying to do new things, which is always nice.
I like when series do new things, and I think what's going to be interesting is if this Fox deal goes through. Like in your opinion, do you think that changes a little bit of how IndyCar approaches this season in terms of the races that they have? I mean, obviously there are tracks that will never leave the circuit, but like if Fox were to come in and be the TV deal with IndyCar, do you think that changes the way IndyCar approaches their seasons moving forward in terms of the races they have?
I honestly don't really know exactly the ins and out of the marketing TV deal
Okay.
and all that, but I will say like I think overall for the product, just like I think it's more like the maybe like IndyCar, just some It's more like it's either like they're not really letting the personality of the drivers open up as much, or maybe just the drivers themselves are not as exciting as um, like Formula One or NASCAR or something like that. But it seems um, like I know a bunch of guys doing that series just from running with them, and I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
cool, I know that guy. I mean, that's exciting to watch because hey, I know who he is. I've talked to him and all that. But just really thinking from like if I was somebody like never been to the track, never met these people in real life, I'm not sure they're maybe as exciting to watch as some guys who are like, I saw a tweet about like Paul Tracy. Like I never seen him race, but all the clips from Paul Tracy back in the day, I'd be like, oh my god! Like I would be like, I would want to see this guy race every weekend, right?
Yeah,
Because he's such a big personality. So I think it's more like having big personalities like that is something, and just or maybe there's big personalities that just they not really shine through in the current format. It's something that's more could be beneficial to the series rather than I just don't know how much having a different channel really gonna make a difference.
I agree. I feel like that's the one thing that some series kind of lack is the lack of just not being able to showcase their drivers and the personality. I know IndyCar does a lot on social media, but sometimes not as many. The audience can be different on social media, and the age demographic could be different on social media compared to people who are watching the race and learning about these guys via a television screen. So I think being able to showcase these drivers outside of their car and showcase their kind of just who they are and stuff, I think that is a big key. I think that racing, some series at least, may be lacking.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like IMSA is such a great product because the car is
Mm-hmm.
doing all the talking, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that's a 911. Oh my God, the 911 is going against BMW or like brands and stuff like that. So in open wheel racing, I think it falls more into some of the like the driver and kind of being more like out there or more exciting or something like that. I don't know. But at the same time, I get like some of those kids are like they grow up doing go-karting since they're little and they just want to be there to race and they don't care about like all the other stuff that comes with it, right? It's like
Yeah.
I get that part too. Like, you know.
Yeah, I know, and obviously with this season, it's been kind of a crazy year with everything that's gone on in IndyCar. It seems like there's been a lot of drama over the last handful of weeks. I don't know how much of a chance you've gotten to see some of it, but I know like Detroit was kind of drama filled, and then even with Cole and Herta, there was some stuff this past weekend. Like, what are your just thoughts overall about what this season has been for IndyCar and the times that you have gotten a chance to watch it? I know how busy you are with your racing and everything that's going on with you personally, but I mean, what have your overall thoughts been with IndyCar this season? I know there's been a lot that's happened.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't know. Like, I really it seems like something like the drama that you're talking about. It seems like more like it, like again, like it's so hard to forget that like some people who are like diehard fans and they keep up with the series and they
Yeah.
keep up with the drivers. They're like, whoa, did you hear what he said? Like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
god, he or that guy turned into him or this guy did that. But like it doesn't really like whatever drama happens there, it doesn't really go past that bubble, right? Like nobody like um how would I say how would I mean it's something more like people are like they don't so here's what like another tweet I read is that somebody was like um after the 500 they don't even know there's a race going on, like people who are legitimately would want to watch IndyCar after the
Mm-hmm.
500, like there's no promotion. Nobody's like they don't. It's almost like in F1, every single weekend is the same effort as like the 500 in the sense of like marketing, putting it out there, doing the promotion. putting it to the people. And it seems like in Indy, it's more like really the 500 is all there is, and then it's more like local markets. But honestly, I don't know the marketing side of it that well. I might just be talking out of my ass on that one.
No, I agree with what you're saying, and I'm interested to see how this new hybrid's going to play into the racing now, because I know Mid Ohio actually is debuting the, I think it's Mid Ohio. I think, hopefully I'm right there. They're debuting the new hybrid systems now in IndyCar. I'm interested to see like what the numbers are going to look like and what people's viewership of the series are going to be, because I know hybrid racing is becoming such a huge part of racing now, especially in sports car racing. And Nikita, you've gotten a chance to like see that at Daytona and at other races you partnered with WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, which have held the kind of top part of that weekend. So I mean, hybrid racing is just becoming a new part of, I think, racing as a whole now.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, and it's like more progressive. But IndyCar, I think it's more like they need a new car. Mm-hmm. Like that car is, and I mean, it seems like the driver's been saying it, and it's just like and that's another thing with like F1. There's a new car coming out every 4 or 6 years or something. Well, technically, like every year, supposed to be a new some kind of development on the thing, but like again, changing it to a hybrid, like the power unit is great, but like how many people from the fan side are really going to be excited about it? Like big picture, right? Like again, diehards, people who are into racing for sure, but I think it would be cooler to see like a brand new chassis, brand new everything, and just the whole formula being reworked. But as far as like the hybrid system and all that, like I'm more excited about where Formula E is headed, honestly. Like, because it seems like the next generation of car, it just keeps getting really crazy. Like, I think honestly, like 5-10 years from now, like I'm more excited about what's gonna happen in Formula E than in Formula One.
Dude, Formula E is getting really exciting. Next year they're going to be in Miami. They just unveiled I don't know if you got a chance to see the new Gen 3 Evo car that they just unveiled. It is ridiculous.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like with Formula One, you kind of like know it's going to be like top of the racing ladder, and you kind of know it's going to be like a little bit more downforce, a little bit less downforce, whatever. But with Formula E, like you really don't know where this is headed. You have no idea how that's going to be in like 10 years.
What's great about it too is it's only been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
So this is a growing fan base, and it's a growing sport that has a lot of really talented drivers as well, and guys who have had so much success as well. And there are guys who have been there long term and want to see the product continue to grow. And I think that's such a testament to what Formula E has done and what it's becoming here in the future.
Yeah, I honestly think like looking at the driver, like if you look at the whole field of drivers, not like the top 5 or top 10, I think Formula E might be the most competitive series. If you really look at the caliber of drivers who are there versus like IndyCar, Formula One, there's really amazing talent out there in Formula E. So I think it's also cool for actually like for a young driver, how some people might think about switching to like sports cars, or maybe they're okay, well, I'm not gonna make it to Formula One, but Formula E, I mean, if you get yourself as a young driver in your 20s and you set yourself there, I think you're in for like an exciting career path for the next decade and more.
Absolutely. And yeah, the drivers, as you mentioned, they're kind of getting younger. And what's also cool is like teams are committing for the Gen 4 for a car that hasn't even came out yet for like the next like 5 or 6 years, like to see the commitment that teams are having. Like Lola just committed to, I think, like 2030, and they haven't even raced a race yet. They're literally coming into the grid next year. That is so impressive to have that commitment, even from a team that hasn't even put on a car on track yet. Like that just shows like the what how much it is growing over the next handful of years, and I'm excited to see what Formula E brings to the table.
Sure.
Nikita, maybe they'll offer you a spot. Lola needs some drivers. So
Yeah. I mean, I think I need to make a lot of waves in sports car world before anybody hits me up from Formula E. But
dude, they'll come down to
um,
Miami, bro. We'll be meeting up. We can be able to meet up again.
yeah, honestly, like realistically, like if we really talk about my career going up next for like the next handful of years, if I can secure myself in pilot slash SRO GT4 world, and I would be really happy if I get an opportunity in GTD. Yeah, but if, like I said again, if I win the lottery, you know where I'm going. So
Yeah, hopefully you win that lottery. But nah, you're doing great stuff. It's been great to see you working through this season, and you obviously have a handful of races left. I mean, what are you most looking forward to this back half of the season? Now that we're kind of halfway through, you got Watkins Glen coming up, you got Mosport coming up, Road America, Indy, Atlanta down the stretch. I mean, what are you most looking forward to?
So as far as the tracks, like honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest. So right now, Watkins Glen is actually my final stop this year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So this is just how far we could make it happen. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not gonna be back in the car, because the team are, they have been really kind to me, and we've built a really good relationship. So we are trying to see if there's an opportunity for me to do more races. Now we definitely have switched our kind of mindset for next year, and trying to find partnership with somebody to make it happen for me to be in the car for the entire season. Now, as far as the tracks, Watkins Glen, I know I'm going to be there next week, so I'm super excited to give it my all for the time being. But I'm very, very. I wish I could do Road Atlanta. The weekend of Petit Le Mans is I love that track. I haven't been there in forever, but I really think it's an amazing circuit. Road America, one of my favorite tracks, but it's kind of like, it's such a big track. I don't even know like how. Like, I mean, those straightaways in the GT4 car might feel like forever, man. Yeah. So we got that, and also I mean the really, I think the closest opportunity for me to be back in the car will probably be Indianapolis, because that's a home race for the CSM team. So they might have something lined up so I can be a part of that weekend.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm looking forward to seeing it at Watkins Glen. Obviously, hopefully you get that.
Are you gonna be there?
Dude, I can't, man. That's like right
Man.
before the week I'm going to Portland, so I got to get ready for Portland.
Gotcha.
But
Hey, but look,
definitely
I really appreciate you coming by and meeting me in person at Daytona, and thank you for bringing me on the podcast. And yeah, hopefully we get to do this more often and in person at the track.
Dude, that would be awesome, man. We'll definitely try to meet up. Maybe we could try to hit you up after Watkins Glen and talk about that Watkins Glen.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always glad, and like you talked about the some social media or some drivers not being into it, or like it's not as big in IMSA. I'm all about it, as far as like if there are people who are, because racing, like it's such, like I said, I feel like it's such a privilege to be a part of it, but also it's so cool to see people being exposed to it, and especially like Pilot Challenge, the fan walk, and how people are excited about looking at the cars, being there, and just getting it's great to see that how much of product there is for people to kind of like consume in terms of racing.
Dude, it's crazy, man. Like seeing like Daytona this past year and just seeing the amount of people that come out for that race, and not only for the main race but also for like the support series as well. It's such a great thing to see. I think sports car racing and racing as a whole thriving right now. It is. I know from a driver's perspective, I can imagine it's cool, and also even from me working in the media, it's like it is so cool to see the level of love and respect that these fans have for you guys. It's pretty sweet.
Absolutely.
So Nikita, always good seeing you, brother. It was so great to talk to you, man. We'll
Thank
have to
you.
meet up
Thank you.
soon. Dude, I
Thank
wish
you.
we'd be going to Walking Glen, man. I want to be up there, but we'll definitely reconnect at some point, and we'll be talking soon, brother. Good
For
to see
sure,
you.
man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.